The drama surrounding Sophie Cunningham has reached a level few could have predicted. What began as a routine promotional appearance for Adidas turned into one of the most talked-about moments of the WNBA season. A story of fame, power, and timing that has reshaped how fans, brands, and even the Indiana Fever themselves view the fiery forward. Sophie Cunningham, once known for her hustle and edge on the court, suddenly found herself at the center of a cultural storm that had as much to do with marketing genius as it did with basketball. It all started innocently enough. Adidas was set to release a new line of basketball shoes, bold, vibrant, and unapologetically flashy. One of those colors, electric pink, needed a personality to match its energy. Enter Sophie Cunningham. The ad opens like any other, with familiar branding beats and fast cuts showcasing the new designs. But the moment Sophie steps on screen, it stops feeling like a product commercial and starts feeling like a declaration. Clad in striking pink, her energy radiates from every frame. She doesn't share the spotlight, she is the spotlight. And as she delivers her now viral line, "I'm busy," fans across the internet felt the electricity. Social media lit up instantly. Within hours, clips of the ad flooded TikTok and X. The tone, the smirk, the dismissive attitude, it all felt deliberate. Adidas wasn't just selling sneakers, they were selling an attitude. But behind that attitude, fans detected something deeper. Some saw empowerment, a woman at the top of her game, owning her identity and career. Others saw shade, a subtle jab at her current team, the Indiana Fever. The tension wasn't imagined. It was baked into every frame, every smirk, every pause. Sophie's brand had just stepped beyond basketball. The reactions were polarized. On one hand, Sophie was praised for capitalizing on her growing fame. After defending Caitlin Clark earlier in the season and quickly becoming a fan favorite, she'd landed endorsement deals with RBS, Ring, and now Adidas. For supporters, this was the natural evolution of a player who had earned her moment. "Making lemonade out of lemons," one analyst said. On the other hand, critics questioned her loyalty. Was Sophie turning her newfound fame into a platform for personal gain at the expense of her team? The timing only fueled speculation. Just days before the ad dropped, Sophie had made headlines on her podcast, hinting at contract negotiations and even mentioning cities outside Indiana as potential future homes. Her words had already sent the Fever fandom into a mild panic, with questions swirling about whether the team would offer her a max deal or risk losing one of their rising stars. So when the Adidas spot hit with Sophie front and center, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like punctuation. Was this her way of signaling independence? Fans asked. Or was Adidas stirring the pot for attention? Either way, the results were undeniable. The ad exploded and Sophie's name dominated headlines. Electric pink became more than a shoe color, it became her persona. Online, fans begged for a Sophie-branded Adidas line. Sports media outlets broke down the ad frame by frame, debating whether her "I'm busy" moment was empowerment, arrogance, or both. Inside Adidas, the decision to feature Sophie so prominently wasn't random. Executives had watched her social media blow up. They saw the Good Morning America appearance earlier that week. They saw how she carried herself with the swagger of someone who knows her worth, and they pounced. Adidas wanted energy, controversy, and conversation, and Sophie delivered all three. They leaned into her polarizing image, turning the same traits that once made her a target of criticism into her greatest asset. Adidas didn't just promote a product, they built a campaign around personality. Sophie's electric pink became more than a marketing move, it was a cultural reset for the brand. She wasn't framed as part of a team, but as an individual force, an unapologetic disruptor. The ad's tagline, "Be unapologetic," suddenly took on a life of its own. It was as if Adidas had handed Sophie a megaphone and told her to say what she'd been thinking all along. And she did, without uttering a word. But while the internet celebrated her glow-up, not everyone was thrilled. Inside the Indiana Fever organization, there were murmurs of discomfort. A player's growing fame can be a double-edged sword. On one side, it brings attention, ticket sales, and relevance. On the other, it shifts the balance of power. Sophie was no longer just a role player, she was a brand, and brands don't always stay loyal. As one insider reportedly put it, when the spotlight gets too bright, it stops shining on the jersey. Sophie, though this was years in the making, her journey had been defined by resilience and controversy. From her MAGA Barbie nickname during her Phoenix Mercury days to her fiery clashes on court, she had always been polarizing. But in 2024, everything changed. She wasn't just a tough player anymore, she was a cultural figure, a bridge between traditional sports marketing and social media stardom. And now, thanks to Adidas, she had crossed into mainstream recognition. The commercial became the spark that ignited a larger conversation about women's sports, branding, and self-worth. Why shouldn't WNBA players embrace their individuality? Why shouldn't they capitalize on fame, especially when league salaries pale in comparison to their NBA counterparts? For Sophie, the Adidas spotlight wasn't rebellion, it was evolution. And yet, the ripples it caused within the Fever organization were undeniable. Suddenly, questions about her future weren't hypothetical anymore. Would the Fever offer her the deal she wanted? Could they afford not to? Every post, every interview, every commercial became a potential statement about where her loyalty lay. In one of her podcast interviews that week, Sophie spoke about her next contract with a calm confidence that matched her on-screen persona. "I just want a bigger contract so I can finally buy a house and feel cozy," she said. It was a soft line delivered casually. But then came the twist. She mentioned cities like New York and Minneapolis as places she could see herself living. The internet froze. That single sentence, innocent on its surface, hit like a bombshell. Fever fans held their breath. Was she hinting at a departure? Sports commentators dissected the quote endlessly. Was it negotiation leverage? Or was it the prelude to a breakup? Either way, the tension was palpable. What had begun as a feel-good Adidas rollout had evolved into a full-blown off-season storyline. The Indiana Fever front office, already under pressure to build around Caitlin Clark, now faced the possibility of losing another fan favorite in Sophie Cunningham. Meanwhile, Adidas basked in the glow of controversy. The company had managed to turn a 30-second spot into a viral cultural moment, one that transcended basketball and entered mainstream conversation. They had turned Sophie's electric pink persona into something iconic, an emblem of confidence, chaos, and charisma. By the end of the week, Sophie's name was trending more than any WNBA player. She had managed to own the news cycle from Good Morning America to Adidas's global spotlight. For a league that often struggles to keep its stars in the public eye, Sophie's rise was both a triumph and a warning. Fame this bright doesn't come without cost. As the dust settled, one truth stood out. Sophie Cunningham had rewritten the rules. She wasn't just playing for a team anymore. She was playing for legacy, for brand power, for autonomy. Whether she stays with the Fever or not, she's already secured something far more valuable than a max contract: control of her own narrative. And that's the real story behind the electric pink moment. It wasn't just an ad. It was a message to her team, to her critics, and to the entire league that Sophie Cunningham isn't waiting for permission to shine. She's busy, and she's just getting started. Now the question is, what do you think? Was Sophie's Adidas commercial a bold power move or a subtle sign of tension with the Fever? Is this marketing brilliance or a sign that fame is changing the WNBA from the inside out? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more dramatic sports stories just like this.